onto the Jets schedule. You were talking about, you did your quick reaction with Joe right as it dropped. But let's hit on a few specific things first, and then I'm going to give you the chance to do what Joe did on the Wednesday pod, because I've already done it myself. I've gone through week by week and gotten my takes, but I want to hear you were kind of put in a spot where it was like, are we going to go 8 or 9 or 9 or 8? And you picked your at the end, but I want to do the week by week breakdown. But before we get into that, just taking a look at the schedule, which game are you most looking forward to this season?
I hate to give such like a coach speak answer. Week one, I number one because it's the next game, right? And I think
Sure.
like, how does this team come out of the gates? Because we had such a coming out of the gates problem for the last several years, and not only like coming out of the games slow, but also like coming into the season slow a couple times. Like it felt like it took a few weeks to get started. Even in the really good defense year, they got their doors blown off by Baltimore, I think, week one in the rain. And like everybody was like, oh my God, do we need to fire Robert Saleh? Is this defense bad? And then they had a really, really good season after that. So like, I think coming out week one, new era, like how do we come out of the locker room? How do we prepare? And you don't even necessarily need to win. But like, I'd like to see a better prepared team. So week one for that reason. Now, we haven't even mentioned Aaron Rodgers yet. If Aaron Rodgers is playing in that game, I want to cause Aaron Rodgers pain. I'm sorry. I do. It's not healthy of me. I understand that maybe I'm a bad person. I understand it maybe was not all his fault here. I want him to be embarrassed at MetLife. And I want Justin Fields to feel the opposite of that, where he gets to prevail over his own team. So I left those two reasons for last because those are admittedly stupid persons coming out of the mouth of a very petty man. But I think more importantly, just week one, just come out hot.
Yeah. And I think, the Jets schedule, is like, we don't have many it's not like we have big primetime showdowns. This isn't like the last 2 years where they're force feeding the Jets on national television. Like, week 1 o'clock game, Steelers at Jet, like they are setting it up to be like an Aaron Rodgers, Justin Fields revenge storyline. We'll see if that actually goes through, but I don't think, I think most Jet fans, when they saw that, they were like, oh, of course, that's our week 1 matchup.
Yep.
Outside of that, and I'll say outside of the division games, is there a game that you have circled as like, this is the most important game on our schedule?
Yeah. So I think I'm going to give you two answers to this. Outside of the division games, and I'm going to put the Denver game aside, although I think the Denver game is going to be important at the end of the season because it's going to be AFC and all that stuff. Like, I think that one will matter. I'm going to cast it aside because it's London. And so, like, because it's in London, that kind of like makes everything weird. And I think you got to put it to the side a little bit. I think probably the Jacksonville game has potential to be kind of a fulcrum game where it's like, if they're starting to get hot at the end of the season and they're coming off a pretty tough stretch against a few good teams, that could be one where it's like, if you win, we're chasing, and if you lose, you're dead. But the answer I'm going to give, and I'll tell you more why I think this way when we go through the schedule wins and losses, is I think that Carolina game could end up being really important. And I know that that's a weird game to choose because it's NFC. It's a weird opponent that we don't get a lot. But I think when you look at the schedule and you total out the wins and losses, if you're on that 7-10, 8-9, 9-8 line, like if you're flirting with that 3-game range, there's a game in there that's going to loom large that can flip either way. And I think Carolina is one of those games. And we'll see where I have it in mind. But I think that game could loom large because a lot of them, it's hard to argue, right? Like, nobody's going to sit here preseason and say we're beating Baltimore week 12. And if you do,
No.
you probably need to go see a psychotherapist I'm not saying it couldn't happen. The NFL's weird. Maybe there's injuries. Maybe crazy things happen. Maybe they just upset Baltimore that day. But if you're sitting here in May saying we're beating Baltimore week 12, you got an issue, right? So I think, like, again, when you look at the schedule that way, there are some that you just can't argue. And Carolina is one of those ones that could go either way that could end up being really important. How about you?
So we have a similar logic, and mine's an interesting one, especially given the team I'm about to name, who I don't necessarily think is going to be like one of the competitive teams in the league. I have the Browns game circled, particularly because it's right after the bye, and we'll get to our season breakdowns, but I do not expect the Jets to have a very good start of the season. They've got a very tough schedule going into the bye. And that is like a momentum, and obviously limiting the division games out of it. You got the Browns, then you got the Patriots, like back-to-back weeks where the Jets are going to be, coming off the toughest part of their schedule, coming out of a bye. And it's also the first chance we get to see of, like, this has been a organization that has historically struggled coming out of buys. And this is going to be the first time Aaron Glenn is going to get to do it. How does he respond? You're given a team that on paper, and obviously it's easy to say on paper, May 18th or whatever, 5 months before this game actually kicks off. But on paper, the Browns shouldn't necessarily be a threat. How do the Jets respond coming off of what was a difficult schedule, coming out of the bye? Can we start doing things the right way and build off of, you have 2 weeks to prepare for a team that you should be better than. Can you get a W? That's the game that I think, because if coming out of the bye, if we don't beat the Browns, we could be in for, like, it could be time to turn on the tank, essentially, at the halfway point of the season, which we're about to get through our breakdowns. That's not necessarily the way that I think I'm overly optimistic going into this schedule, but we'll see, because it ebbs and flows. But if the Jets can beat the Browns, they might have a shot to do something here. So, all right, Paul, the moment is here. I'm going to give you, and I have my answers ready. So I will not let what you say influence me. But we're going to go through week by week, the way that Joe and you did it, go through the schedule and see what Jets record we get. All right. So Week 1, Steelers at Jets, win or loss. What do you got?
That's a dub.
I have it as a dub too.
I cannot escape the feeling that they are going to come out with their hair on fire. I think they've been yearning for good coaching. They're finally going to get it, and they're going to burst out of the tunnel and be ready to kill somebody.
Yeah, I have it too. I think also the Aaron Rodgers factor of it all, I think, will play to the Jets' emotions in a way that I don't think necessarily the Steelers players care as much that they're facing Justin Fields as the Jets players would that they'd be playing Aaron Rodgers, if that makes sense.
And I wonder even if some of the Steelers players think Justin Fields got a raw deal.
Sure.
Because it's not like Russell Wilson was popular there.
No. Or in New York either. Like, it's not, they went out and signed a guy immediately. So, or drafted a guy in the first round immediately. So we'll see. The New York Giants is going to be an interesting situation to watch this season, but we'll see how that all plays out. All right. Week 2, Buffalo at Jets.
I have it as a loss.
Yeah, me too. We can just keep it moving. Jets going down to Tampa for week 3. What do you got?
I have a loss.
Me too. All right. This is an interesting one. Jets at Dolphins week 4.
I have a win.
Interesting. So I have a loss here. I have the Jets at 1-3. What makes you think the Jets are coming out and winning this game?
So I'm a long time believer in the Dolphins are frauds, and it's for a number of reasons. It's Tua mostly. Zach Wilson being there just kind of like, again, he was pretty hated here, I think, and I think that there's probably a little extra juice for that game. And we seem to always have a Tua injury pretty early in the season, and I'm not counting on that, but it's a Monday night game. It's the Jets' first opportunity under Aaron Glenn to play on national TV, and where I think that they've struggled mightily on national TV in the last few years, I think that he motivationally finds a way for them to get up for a divisional game hey, this is the first time the country's going to see who we are. Let's fucking go kill somebody, right? So a lot of the same reasons I think they come out hot in week 1, I think Aaron Glenn finds a way to manufacture that same kind of feeling for week 4.
Listen, I hear the argument and I love it. I also just I hear Jets national primetime stage and I'm just like lost.
Yeah.
But
It's so
it's
Aaron Glenn was
conditioning.
on the Monday Night Miracle team, so
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Week 5, Cowboys at Jets. Who you got?
this one hurt, but it's a loss for me.
So, all right. So we flip flop there. I have it as a win. So we're both 2 and 3. And to be honest, like because I was listening to you and Joe go through the schedule, and I had initially thought like, all right, Cowboys, even though it's a home game, like Cowboys had a very down year last year. Like odds are they're getting better. And then I remembered that Brian Schottenheimer is coaching the team.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, I have the Jets take win. All right, let's go abroad. We're going to London. Broncos, Jets. Who you got?
I have that as a win. Again, I just like Bo Nix. That MFR is not real, right? So like I can't get with Bo Nix being good. Now the one thing that makes me scared about calling this one a win is that Aaron Glenn's a Peyton disciple. And so I could talk myself into being like, the master's gonna own the student type thing, but I could also talk myself into Aaron Glenn knows everything that Sean Payton's going to do because he's been in all those rooms before. And so I'm gonna take that thing and I'm gonna package it with Bo Nix, and I'm gonna say that we're 1 and 2 historically in Europe. So let's make it an even 500.
I love all the logic and reasoning. I unfortunately have this as a loss. But the reasoning I have it as a loss is I think like going into the season, obviously, you never know, but I think they're going to be favored in this game. And historically, like it's like 90% the favorite wins when it's London. Like I was listening to you and Joe talk about how crazy things happen, or at least it was last season where like crazy things happen in the international series. But I think historically, if you look at the data, it's less crazy than you'd expect, and the favorite just ends up coming out on top most of the time. So
that's a good nugget.
Picturing that the Jets won't be favored in London, I have the Jets taking the loss. Carolina, your most important game on the schedule. What do you got?
I have it as a loss, unfortunately.
Wow. Okay, so I have the Jets as a win. We keep flip flopping, but interesting.
So like if they lose in London to Denver, then maybe I change my feeling on this one a little bit. But like not having the bye, coming off a win, like that just strikes me as letdown game. It's also like year 2 for Canales. Bryce Young looked good at the end of the year. Like I think Carolina, I'm not saying Carolina is going to like make the playoffs in the NFC or anything like that. I just think they're going to be a little jumpier than people think they're going to be. And so that's one that just strikes me as letdown game.
Yeah, it's an interesting scheduling nugget because, and I'm pretty sure people have said this before, but like if you play in your if you're playing an international game, the team gets to choose whether or not they want their bye to come right after or not. Like the NFL will say, do you want your bye? And the Jets said no. So that might be a little hubris for the Aaron Glenn coaching staff, but maybe he feels very confident about getting his team ready to play on, a short week's notice. But I have the Jets beating Carolina. And then, all right, Bengal at Cincinnati, Bengals game. What do you got?
It's a fat L. I don't know how you could pick the other way on that one.
So we're both 3 and 5 heading into the bye.
Okay.
All right. Now on to my most important game. Browns at Jets coming off the bye. What do you got?
So reluctantly I called this one a win just because I think Cleveland is going to be in such disarray. But like the bye week scaries for the Jets, like they make that. I get your point on why this is an important game because they are so bad out of the bye week historically that this is another one that could slip away and be a letdown game. But man, I guess we're just praying for dysfunction in Cleveland. What do you got?
Yeah. I will be scared if Joe Flacco is the quarterback for this game. Like if we're 10 weeks into the season and Flacco's still playing, like I would be much more scared. But I think if they're turning to Kenny Pickett or a rookie, I will trust Aaron Glenn's defense to go out there and get a win over, Cleveland, I think, did a lot of retooling to get better in the future, but I don't necessarily love the offseason that they had for this upcoming season. So I'm fine calling this a win for the Jets. All right. We got at New England, week 11. What do you got?
I have an L here.
Me too. Yeah, I think we forget just how bad New England was last year, but I think better coaching, improved players, especially on the offensive line. And I think Drake May is good. Like, we had all these conversations about letting New England get a quarterback back, way back in that draft class. And I do think he's good. So it's not, we'll get to when New England comes to the Jets, but I think going into Foxborough, you and I both have this as an L.
And speaking of data, by the way, like Thursday night home teams are like, it's an outrageous imbalance there. And so you combine all that, Vrabel, the quarterback, like all of it together, and traveling on the road on Thursday night. Yeah.
All right. Baltimore, who you got?
Loss.
Yeah, me too.
If you couldn't tell by how I spoke about it before, loss.
Yeah. I mean, it's Jets going up against, I almost said the reigning MVP just because in my head I'm completely ignoring the fact that Josh Allen won MVP, but Jets going up against Lamar. They're,
not
the
my
Ravens
MVP.
The Ravens are a juggernaut, and until otherwise, I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that the Jets are going to beat them. Important game then, Falcons at Jets. Who you got?
Yeah, I'm calling this one a loss. Also, Falcons, much like the Panthers, are a team that I think is going to be a little jumpier than people think. Penix is potentially good, right? Like, a lot of people really loved him, and I think that we forgot about him a little bit because he got drafted in a weird place that none of us expected, and maybe a little earlier than people expected to a place we didn't expect, and then he didn't start until the end of his rookie season. So I don't know. I don't feel good about Falcons. They have amassed a lot of offensive talent the last couple of years, and I feel like they're ready to take a little bit of a jump.
So I have this as a win for the Jets. I think, this could be a flip-flop. And also, we were talking about it. Looking at my schedule, I think I'll revisit this game at the end. But for right now, I'll say I have this as a win for the Jets. I think a year two starter, going up, like, now there's film on Penix, which is good. And I also, I have faith in the Jets defense, especially a home game coming off 2 back-to-back losses. I think they get off the schneid here. Dolphins at Jets. Who you got?
I have another win. All the same.
So you have them sweeping the Dolphins.
So I have them. Well, I don't want to reveal the rest of it, I guess. So yeah, I have them sweeping the Dolphins. All the same reasons I said the first time. And, this one's Miami traveling in December to New York. So add that on top.
I have the Jets beating the Dolphins here as well. I had them splitting the series. So I gave the home games to both teams. Jets at Jaguars, December 14th. Critical game. Who you got?
I have this as a loss.
Interesting. All right. So
I want to call this one a win. I do think Trevor Lawrence is not that good. There's a lot of things that make me want to call this a win. But at the end of the day, I was like, I just can't get myself all the way there. So that's a loss for me.
I have it as a win. So I'm going to revisit this once we get to the end, but I'll just, you know what? Fuck it. I'll revisit it when we get to the end. I'll just say for now, I have the Jets winning in Jacksonville. I don't think the Jags are going to be as good as people expect this season. All right, Jets at Saints. Speaking of a team. Yeah, okay. Speaking of a team in dysfunction. Jets at Saints.
I mean, is Tyler Shuck playing quarterback for them all year? Like, is that the plan?
It could be Jake Horner. That would be something. All right. The most important division game probably on our schedule: Patriots at Jets just after Christmas. Who you got?
I have the Jets winning this game. I think again, like I don't see them dropping both to the Patriots this year, and this is the obvious one that I think they get. So I do think they find a way to compete with them both times. I don't think we're looking at any kind of ugliness, hopefully. But yeah, I have them split.
All right. So what's your record at going into week 18? Because I have a win here too, and I have the Jets at 9-7 right now.
I'm at 7-9.
Okay. So going into Buffalo, who you got?
I'm taking the Jets against Buffalo, and I think that Buffalo is probably playing for something. So I'm not taking this as a Buffalo's resting and we're beating up, Mitch Trubisky or whoever their backup is now. I'm taking this as we're beating Buffalo, right? I think it's the end of the season. I think the Jets have found a way to start being squirrely at this point, and they kind of put themselves at a point with that Jacksonville loss on my schedule where they pretty much mathematically eliminated themselves, but crazy things can happen, right? And so they've found a way to play hard and catch fire down the last stretch of the season here, and they're going out with a bang, and we kind of end the season on some good feelings.
I have the Jets losing this game at Buffalo as well. I think if the Bills have clinched everything, like completely locked it up, I do think there's a world where the Jets could win 10 games, which is an insane thing to say and insanely optimistic. And honestly, part of the reason I have this as a loss on my schedule is like I don't see a world where they're winning 6 games to end the season. Like a 6-game winning streak to get into the playoffs does not feel very Jets like to me. And that's kind of where when I said I wanted to go back, like I think there could be a loss to the Falcons, a loss to the Jags, like something peppered in there where they break up that streak because it doesn't compute to me that they would have that long of a winning streak to potentially propel them into the playoffs. But
Yep.
my optimistic brain wanted to put 10-7, and I just couldn't. I couldn't get myself there, so I'm giving myself a loss to Buffalo to end the season.
Well, I think that's responsible of you to do at the end. Here's my zoomed out take when I look at where I picked each game, and I have them at 8 and 9 total. I think there's a way to get to 9 and 8. And when I zoom out and look at it, I think the 5 most important games of the season are one of the Buffalo games, one of the Miami games, and Carolina, Dallas, and Jacksonville, which I get is like 3 random opponents, but those are 3 gettable games that I have the Jets going 0-3 in. So if you can find a way to steal one of those games, 2 of those games, you're putting yourself at a 9 and 8 position right now. Granted, I had them beating Buffalo and I have them sweeping Miami. So you might, if you win 2 of those 3 against Dallas, Carolina, and Jacksonville, and you drop one against Miami and you drop both against Buffalo, then you're just in the same spot, right? If you find a way to sweep those 3, then you can afford a loss against one of those teams like Buffalo, Miami, and you're still 9 and 8, right? So I think, like, again, those 3 outside of division games, and then the 2 games, ensure that you split with Buffalo, and ensure that you sweep Miami, and ensure that you don't get swept by New England, right? Like, you have to get the split with New England. And there's a way, like there's a road to get to 9 and 8. There's a road to squeak into the playoffs. I don't necessarily think it happens. Like I said, I have them coming up just short because they're losing those fulcrum games. But if they can find a way to steal 2 of them, then who knows, man? If you can get hot at the right time, you never know. And I think a lot of people are picking them to finish hot at the end of the year, which hopefully, as the lessons of the new coaching regime sink in over time, they start to hit their stride. But we'll see, man. I mean, I don't think it's going to be a season that teeters on the brink of mediocrity the whole time, probably, with a chance to do something special if you can steal a